Hi guys, so welcome to this episode of In Light of It All. So today we talk to Dr. Vanessa Champion, who is the founder and editor of the Journal of Biophilic Design, one of the world's leading platforms exploring how nature, architecture, and science all work together to improve human health and well-being. So she's got a background spanning academia, archaeology, and she's done all kinds of wacky stuff, publishing, media. I believe her parents went to clown school. I might be making that up, but she comes from a really thespian, colorful, awesome, imaginative background, but is incredibly passionate about, translating research into practical design. So in this episode, we explore why the ancient world may have understood healing better than many modern buildings do. We talk from Greek healing temples to hospital wards, window views, and the growing evidence for biophilic design. Vanessa essentially explains why nature is not a luxury or aesthetic choice, but a fundamental part of human biology. So we discuss what happens when we disconnect people from the environments they evolved within and why designing with nature could become one of the most important shifts in the future of architecture and healthcare. So I hope you enjoy this episode. As ever, feel free to like and share and subscribe. If you've got any comments, feel free to reach out. And yeah, let's get stuck in.
Vanessa, here we are.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for making time. I know you're ridiculously busy in between flying to Uganda and talking on panels and advisory boards and stuff like that. So thank you so much for squeezing in little old me. This episode is very much weighted towards biophilic design, understanding its importance, its significance. But to start off, I guess the big question is what the hell is biophilic design? It's quite largely misunderstood. Could you give us a little overview as to what it is?
Well, obviously bio meaning life, like biology, and philia meaning love, or a tendency towards that. And it refers to our innate connection to nature and living systems, not just a natural world, but actually to living systems, life patterns, living patterns. And when we cut ourselves off from it, we get sick. And really, biophilic design is the design practice which applies the biophilia hypothesis, if you want, to design practice. So bringing nature into our built environment, whether that's real patterns of nature, real plants. Obviously plants and that direct connection to nature is the best thing we can do. Actually getting outside into nature is even better if we can do that. But if we can't get outside and we need to bring analogues of the natural world in there. So that's like wood, the colorways, textures, patterns, light, dappled shade, all that sort of stuff. All the things that we have in nature brought into the built environment.
Awesome. So, I mean, in terms of your journey into this, because, like I say, you're so busy on social media. You have your own podcast as well. The number of Journal of Biophilic Design editions. How many are you up to now? Should we put you on the
I've
spot,
lost track.
roughly? There's your answer, right? There's your answers.
16?
But there are, I mean,
16.
every edition is just like a
18,
complete eye-opener of wonderful information about how you can enrich the built environment by bringing nature indoors, right?
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. So, but your origin story and sort of your personal motivation, I mean, you started out in Greek and Latin, studying that, and then, I mean, how did that lead to a career in biophilic design? How did your academic background kind of help you land where you are?
I started life, as you say. My undergraduate was in Greek and Latin. Did my BA, real complete nerd. Loved the language, loved literature, loved linguistics. So I loved how things fitted together and how things evolved, how language evolved. But I was also really fascinated. I'm also an artist and photographer and stuff. But I was also really, really interested in ancient art and architecture. And then my PhD basically combined all of those things. But I was just fascinated, like, for instance, how Greek temples have, all the beautiful foliage on the top of capitals. I was always living life quite naturally anyway. My mum was into ecology, so my dad loved being outside. So we always had that nature connection at home. So I suppose that kind of fed into when I was studying the ancient Greek and Roman world, things like the ancient temples or the places of healing, which were dedicated to the ancient god of healing, Asclepius. You see the doctor's symbol, which is the caduceus, with the symbol that comes from the god of Asclepius.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. But what they would do is they would go and sleep in these places that were outside of the city, that had beautiful natural air. The Greek kind of principle, they understood the importance of air quality, sound, the bird song, all that kind of thing. And you'd go to these beautiful places and sleep and just be healed, by the sounds of water running because you were in the countryside, and you would go for walks, and you had a greater connection to nature. But I was just fascinated by all that, really, and that's kind of fed also the fact that in academia you have to always go back. And I think particularly with ancient Greek and Roman, I think it sort of set me up in a completely different way, because you're looking at the primary sources. You're not just reading somebody's, archaeological report. Yes, you are. My PhD was looking at the original text, then going back to the archaeological reports, but then looking at the actual evidence on the ground. So always going back to the original source, which is kind of what I'm doing now with the biophilic design thing. But anyway, so
it's a funny one though. So because you had so much exposure to nature when you were younger, do you feel like perhaps when you were then going and studying, your PhD and everything, trying to work out nature, do you think there was a part of you that was trying to work out why you weren't, because obviously you're outside a lot, then suddenly you're indoors studying non-stop. Do you think you were slightly trying to hunt in academia for the thing that you so enjoyed when you were younger?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, sort of maybe. I think there was I think with the academic thing particularly, I wanted to travel. So that's kind of why I wanted to be an academic. So I wanted to travel the world and deliver stuff. But I think for it was mainly actually the aesthetics side of things, which I suppose is where the design comes in. I was fascinated by the art and architecture of the buildings and the structure, and also town planning, how town planning informed how a society worked. So, I mean, the sort of this whole biophilic design thing came sort of after, but I sort of balanced, I suppose, sort of natural living, actually, but that was my own personal life, if you know what I mean. It was more about food, clothing, wearing natural materials, having natural wood in my house and stuff, once I read about VOCs and everything else. All these things kind of fed in. So I don't think that quite answers your question.
No, it does. It does.
I
mean, was there a kind of single moment where you just went, okay, biophilic design, where it all clicked? So it seems like you went through the traditional academic route of, following your passion and going, isn't it? And little things pop up like, isn't it amazing that there used to be healing spaces where people would retreat outside the city and go and listen to birds and stuff. Yeah. Was there a defining moment where you suddenly went, when did you discover biophilic design as a term? And was there a big eureka moment where you kind of ran outside and hugged a tree?
I didn't do it naked like what's his name did. Yeah.
I was going to take my top off because it's absolutely roasting.
Yeah, no, exactly.
For people watching, sorry,
I'm not
looking smart. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Was there a single moment that really made you go? But like, when did you discover the term biophilic design?
I actually, So, I mean, I know we're going to talk about when my mum was sick, and I took a picture of nature in, and she in her recovery, I realised, she was looking at a pinboard and a dustbin, and this was during the flu epidemic, and my dad had Alzheimer's and vascular dementia, and he was spending his time looking at ceiling tiles, and I'm like, being an artist, I'm like, come on, you could put clouds on the thing. Somebody with dementia. I mean, his frame of reference must have been like horrendous, just seeing white squares and not knowing where the hell he was, But no, you couldn't make it up. My mum was rushed into hospital as well with the flu epidemic, looking at a pinboard and a dustbin, and they just got her stable, but then I was losing her, and it was just because it was such a dull room. It was an innate thing for me. I just took a photography. I just took an image of nature, which was printed on this chemical resistant metal, so the NHS couldn't complain, it wasn't made of canvas or anything. I put it on the wall. My mum sort of looked at it, and I went back the next day, and she was brighter. She started looking at it. The doctors and nurses started coming in. Fast forward, anyway, she walked out of there. Her blood pressure had come down. She was responding to drugs.
Way.
It was phenomenal, and so I'd witnessed this.
And that's just an image.
That was just an image. So it was a view of nature. So it was a beautiful view of trees, pathway through trees. It was just an inherent, at least you can see like a view through something. And then I took a beautiful water scene with mountains and things, and just kind of switched them out, seeing what, And but before that, I had gone to because I was selling my artwork. I was represented by a gallery in Pimlico, my photography, and I was just fascinated by how I could combine my artwork you printed on this metal and combine it with, say, like putting it into bathrooms or kitchens. So I started like Rocker, which is a bathroom company. They had a thing on biophilic design, on biophilia, and I was like, so what's this? Anyway, he mentioned the term, and it was about sustainability. That's right, because it was saying that was what it was. It was about sustainability. And I was like, oh, so I went along and he mentioned this word biophilia. And because being Greek, it was a Greek word. And I was like, biophilia. This is like what my life story is. This whole thing about living naturally.
Felt predetermined almost.
I know. I was like, this is my life. This is biophilia. It makes complete sense. And because then I'd witnessed what happens to my mum, I was like, hang on a minute. These things are joined up. So this biophilic thing. Anyway, I went off and researched it. And that's kind of where the moment, I suppose, happened was, hang on a minute. I want to get nature and views of nature into every single NHS. It's kind of what I want my legacy to be. I want views of nature and natural patterns and natural colours, natural systems, biophilia. I want that biophilic feeling.
Well, should we break it down a little bit? So you've got Kellart, you got, do you want to, Stephen Kellart.
Yeah.
You've got, obviously, Bill Browning as well.
E.O. Wilson.
Edward Wilson.
So we've had E.O. Wilson, Stephen Kellart and Bill Browning, and, they've all got something.
And Catherine O'Ryan as well.
Catherine O'Ryan, yeah.
And Joe Clancy, that's the three.
Joe Clancy,
Terrapin patterns.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But do you want to sort of explain the journey of biophilic design? Because I think it is quite a misunderstood term. I mean, I find during lockdown, I used to see people putting a photo up on Instagram of, they'd have a plant in their kitchen and they do a selfie with it and they go, oh, hashtag biophilic design. It's not that. It's way more than that. It's like, as you're saying, fractal patterns, shapes, textures, the richness of nature.
Exactly.
But it was coined by...
Well, originally it was by Eric Fromm. But I forgot what it is. It's something of human destructiveness, and basically what he was saying was he created the word biophilia as an antidote to what we were doing in war. This whole destructiveness of each other and on systems and living patterns and life and war. And he said that this biophilia, it's just an antithesis of what life should be. And then obviously E.O. Wilson with his seminal book, if you haven't read it, Biophilia, and I read it like every year. And he was studying ants and he was looking at living systems and living patterns, and then it's just gone on to how he just celebrated how nature is such an inherent part of us. And then Kellart basically brought the emotional connection of biophilia and biophilic design and sort of brought it all together, if you want, into a design patterns. He had his 6 patterns, which actually I think is a really simple way of, if you look at his 6 if you're going to look at anything, it's like that's the simple way of doing it. And then obviously Terrapin Bright Green have then taken it to the next level. Bill Browning and Katie Ryan and as I say, Joe Clancy and people that have worked on it, and Sally Augustin then they've done all the research, so they've quantified it, if you want, by bringing scientific research and creating these 14, now 15 patterns by including ore, which I think is the best thing.
It's awesome, it's awesome. So cool.
And it is the feeling that biophilic design gives us, actually. It's like when you've got all the things
it's
in
the all-encompassing label for the feeling of being in a beautiful environment.
Exactly. And that's kind of really the journey of biophilic design, where we are now, and the patterns that Bill Browning in Terrapin Bright Green, and it's brilliant because there's so many free resources on there that you can just download, particularly, and if people just do one thing, to download the economics of biophilic design.
Which is biophilic revision as well,
second revision. Yeah, it's just came out last year, and it's amazing. If you're trying to argue a business case for biophilic design, just get it, look at it. They've got it subdivided into healthcare, schools, home, all the other ones, and you can just go, right, okay, got some examples.
It really is incredible as well, because it's reaching out to Bill Browning and Catherine O'Ryan as well. I said, look, I'm writing this book, it's an explanation around our evolution in context of biophilic design, why biophilic design works. I wondered if I might be able to use your 15 patterns at the end of my book as a resource, and they were like, absolutely, that's what it's there for. They're not protective about it at all, but
generous.
Really generous with that.
It's what nature is.
Well, exactly.
That's how nature is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really lovely because actually, the facts in it. I mean, there's facts like in an office space they tilted a desk to look out of a window as opposed to being or facing a room with as you say, this sort of grey ceiling tiles and flickering white lights and just flat matte surfaces and stuff. And productivity tripled. Yeah. And the fact you can get people at a hospital up to 24 hours quicker, or they've done studies with gallbladder surgery and stuff like that. So it's, as you say, I mean, it's an amazing, the economics of biophilia shows how children can learn more effectively, how you can actually get a better review in hospitality.
Yes.
Just because people are enjoying it more. And
exactly. Yeah, because
Hugely
you get a
impactful.
dopamine fix. You get a dopamine fix when you're in nature. You get this like, oh my God, this is amazing, like the waterfall, like standing on top of a mountain. And you get the same fix when you're going shopping. Now, combining nature and biophilic design in retail, you get like, that's why your bottom line increases. And it's the same in the workplace. You know, the more nature, it's like, the more I'm saying it, the more I'm like, I'm just like, we're going on this broken record. But the more nature we have, the more natural systems, natural colours, natural patterns that we have everywhere we are, the happier we are, the more calm we are, and the more we just flourish. You know, to use Professor Derek Clement's Croom kind of research, I mean, which is brilliant if anyone wants to go and Google him. But you know, it's the flourish pattern. You know, this whole thing about how we need to flourish, and biophilic design gives us that. So we make more money on everything. You know, people are worried about the bottom line, which that's the main reason when we're trying to get it over the line in terms of design. We need to always have that economic mindset. And you know, the great thing about biophilic design is probably the most evidence-based design practice ever. So
100%.
it's not just
the
fluff.
research. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, it's because you know the journey of my book as well was almost like an explanation as to why it works, right? And when you go back to the Big Bang and you know radiation scattering and cyanobacteria being the first life on Earth, and then you think how long it's taken for those little bacteria to turn into fish, to then come onto land, to then turn to apes, to turn to us. You know, it's millions and millions and millions of years, and that whole time, our brains have inherited expectations of surface, colour, texture, smell, sound, you know, feeling, everything. And then
it's for survival. I was going to say, but it was for survival, wasn't it? Ultimately, all these things: ears, eyes, nose, smell, taste.
Well, same before we came in. Like one of the fact that smell is our most immediate sense that we have, because we need to be able to detect water. So as soon as a raindrop hits dry soil, it creates this smell that our nose is able to pick up unbelievably quickly. And camels are the extreme of that, right? They can smell water from God knows how many miles away. But again, it is survival. But it's also a dopamine trigger because there's water nearby and it's a really lovely smell. So bring it inside and you flourish, right? Which is exactly what you're saying.
I know, and that's also, I mean, I know there's a whole move to not put soil in the workplace because of the bugs and all this kind of thing. And it's kind of, that's, you know, there's always an up and a down. But actually soil is one of the best things for cleaning air. So, you know,
there's that brilliant documentary on Netflix called Kiss the Ground with
I know.
Woody Harrelson as well.
Yeah.
And it talks about the microbiome, the amount of living organisms in there, which would be cleaning the air as
absolutely, and just like you say, I mean, that whole, you know, petrichor, that beautiful smell of the earth and the land after rain, and it's like a sort of like a very kind of sweet smell that's just so magical, isn't it?
But it's magical because it's survival. It's literally a chemical reaction that tells you you're good. It's okay. You're going to live. Yeah,
exactly. I know.
But all right. I'm gonna,
yeah, exactly. There's going to be animals to eat around here because they've got water and stuff, as well as everything else
it's
of. Yeah.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because, you know, when it comes to a lot of the time when I speak to architects, you go, right, well, did you ever get a biology lesson during your 10, 15 years of studying? And they go, no. And you're like, well, it's interesting, isn't it? If you think about, because we were talking just before this as well, so natural history is now going to be part of the school curriculum, right?
Yeah, so it's a GCSE in natural history.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah, I know, it's a brand new thing. And so everybody, if you've got kids at school, then, you know, encourage your school to sign up to the, because it's supposed to be on the national curriculum. So, your kids can learn about, your kids can learn about nature, natural systems. So it's not just about, identification of a oak tree or a beach or whatever. It's actually looking at the ecosystems within them. And I think if the children have that in the next generations that are coming through, you're going to have a better respect and decision-making process when you get to leadership, because you're not looking just at, getting the next iPod or whatever it is. You're looking at it in a bigger system.
It's a tribal ecosystem, isn't it? I guess you go to the rainforest and you see people living in the old ways. It is very much honouring the land.
But that's why we need, the indigenous voices, all over the world, whether that's here in the UK, whether it's in Australia, South America, India, everywhere. They're the ones that are looking after the land. And you think about our old folklore about, don't chop down certain trees at different times of the year and all this kind of thing, because the baddies will come and get you, and all these things, all these stories. There was a reason why the mythology grew up around it, because it was to protect the land, it was to protect an ecosystem, and we've lost that. So actually listening to people who are indigenous, wherever you are in the world, is so important. It's why we need them at all the COPs. It's why we need them. We need to listen to people. We need to listen to everybody. Everybody has a voice,
Well, I think it's going to be brilliant to actually have a new wave of people coming through who have had that education about the systems and nature and how important it is and how much it flourishes. But I mean, the interesting thing is you said earlier, like, I feel like I'm on a broken record, but we kind of have to be, because it's, I speak to probably, 2,000 people a year, individuals a year, and it's always about, our evolution and like basically almost injecting the natural education into the curators of our habitats that for no fault of their own haven't had that as part of the curriculum. And whenever you say this is biophilic design, this is actually what it is. This is the evolution of the theory, and the practice is now easily applicable through the Terrapin 15 patterns and stuff. And suddenly it's like, wow, this makes so much sense. It's like all you need is that veil to drop, and you go, that's so obvious.
But it's inherent. We know it. It's like, it's not rocket science. It really isn't rocket science.
You feel better after a long walk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're in a mood, or you have a weekend away camping, whatever it might be, you wake up and you're just like, why do I... It's like when you have a massage and you go, because I have one every 2 years or something, and I have one, and then suddenly I'm like, why didn't I do that 2 years ago? This is crazy. But it is that factory reset that it can offer. It's a reset.
It is. I mean, when we think about when we go on holiday, where do we go? We don't choose to go back to an office, do we? We don't choose to go, actually, I'm going to sit in a white box with white walls, for my holiday. It's like, no, I want to be by the sea, I want to be by mountains or trees, I want to be able to... You might have a city break, but of course you might. But, when you're looking for that, moment to just get away from it all, just to reset your mind, you go to nature, Yeah.
So you talk about biophilic design being both evidence-based and emotional.
Yeah.
How do you balance hard data with gut instinct when you're designing?
Well, actually, it's just what we were talking about. Actually, I know. It's actually the same. It's a no-brainer. It's actually a complete no-brainer, because the things that feel like inherent to us and obvious is actually backed up by science. And unfortunately, we need the science. We need to keep banging on. Honestly, not unfortunately, but it is, it's a kind of, I suppose it's sad really, because we have to go, look, this is the evidence. And then people kind of go, oh, okay, I believe it. But yet we believe in love. We feel love. We feel it. We feel love. We feel anger. We feel fear. Yeah, we feel. Yeah,
it's only real because we believe it.
Yeah, real. I know, exactly. So we feel it. We feel it. But then when it comes to, like, for instance, biophilic design, and it's something that's inherent that we feel, we know that we feel better in nature. We might not know why we do. But then when we bring the evidence in, we're like, okay, I get that. Yeah, okay. It's a real thing then. We've moved so far away from it, all from the, the Industrial Revolution, and then, creating factories and creating workplaces that replicate factory layouts. And that's why we're trying to reverse all that by trying to landscape an office just by creating zoning. And more, which is amazing. Some fantastic work that's being done now by designers and architects, where we're creating zoning using biophilic design, using shapes, using different fabrics and plant schemes.
Well, it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about sort of the application of biophilic design projects. So through the journal you've done healthcare, light, so many different categories. Are there?
Yeah. So that's nice.
How would you weave it in, and how have you seen it woven in really brilliant ways?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for instance, like we were talking about Ty Farrow's work. I mean, using wood in buildings, and the Maggie's Cancer Care Centres as well are just amazing. I mean, they're so beautiful. And when I interviewed Dame Laura Lee, and then when the head of estate spoke at our conference, the Biophilic Design Conference at the Barbican last year, they talk about, for instance, how the pathways leading to, if people don't know, Maggie's Cancer Care Centres are places where if you've been diagnosed with cancer, you can go and you can talk to somebody. You can go and have a cup of tea, and you can have like your sort of talk about your diagnosis. Your family can go there and you can process it as a support network. And but everything is biophilic. It's biophilic design. It's Maggie Jenks that was a designer, and her husband, landscape designers. And when she was going through cancer herself, she was in like a white box, and she's like, this is not right. This is not how it should be. So she's the one who invented this whole, we need to be able to be doing this differently. So what, like Dame Laura Lee was saying, and saying the head of estates, she was, the pathways leading to the Maggie's centres are like either curved or they have texture. So you, instead of walking like on hard surface on concrete or asphalt, you're walking on stone, and so it's got the crunch sound. These things that replicate nature. And when you go to the door, for instance, that's your first call for help. You know, you put your hand on the doorknob or the door's open. And it's the same in business. How does a business receive you? How do you feel when you go into the workplace? I mean, companies that are trying to entice people back to the workplace by creating spaces that are more inviting, that are more welcoming.
Hotelification, isn't it? Which is the term of
hotelification. But you look at most.
It is biophilic design.
You look at most hotels.
Warm,
exactly.
Spaces that hold you.
Yeah, and the ones that are most successful, and it, you know, obviously increases real estate value, but they have like plants and they have more soft furnishings. They're inviting. They've got a big warm hug.
With the patterns of
biophilic design.
Right?
Yeah, they know the thing.
The
Amazon spheres. You know, you look at these places that have been designed architecturally.
Yes, well, right? And they go, I see the value.
I see the value on it. I see the value on it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, you know, if these big tech companies are willing to spend millions and millions and millions of pounds on applying biophilic principles, bringing nature inside, and enriching, as you say, these white boxes that we all. I mean, everything's painted in brilliant white.
Yeah.
You get these grid lights that are just.
Oh, aren't they lovely?
Completely gorgeous. I love the
so nice.
That,
do you? Oh, I like those.
Not very much. Very much. But they are just, you know, flat little boxes.
Yeah.
And, there's a little bit of discussion about whether this is true or not, but I was told this fact. Whether it's true or not, as a disclaimer, I don't know, but I think we can all resonate with that. There's a torture technique called the whitening effect, where you would so white walls, white bed, white floor, white ceiling, bright blue white lights. You have white rice on a white plate.
Yes.
And after a week of that torture, they did a scan of the brain. They could see the synapses that actually sort of dissolved and switched off.
Yeah.
Counter that to, you know, attention restoration theory and all these amazing things that are woven into biophilic design, which is, you know, attention restoration theory. A good example of it is that shower eureka moment where you have your best ideas in the shower, and it's because you have, you know, rain and smells and it's a multi-visceral, like the crunching of the gravel and things like that. It puts you in a state of familiar, soothing fractal sounds or patterns or whatever it might be. And when they took those people out of the rooms that were completely white and gave them access to nature, their brain started to sort of come alive again, and the synapses reignite. So
that's right.
For me, it's just night and day. It's just so obvious.
And just going back to the Maggie's Cancer Care Centres, just to pull into the point that you're saying, if you think about most hospital wards and where the staff are working there as well, you know, we forget that they're workplaces as well. We talk about patients, we talk about families, but the staff are working there 24/7. They're white boxes, you know, they're white boxes. They're, like you say, reflective surfaces. It's noisy. You know, sound is one of the major complaints in a workplace. You know, when they do occupancy surveys, it's like sound, it's noisy. So that's what biophilic design is. It brings in better acoustics. But with the Maggie's place, it's completely different. It's wood patterns, it's natural patterns, it's views of nature through the windows. By being able to introduce that, so you asked me before about, you know, other things. The Kutek Puat Hospital in Singapore, which is like, I don't know, 20 years old, 30 years old now. It's beautiful. There's plants everywhere if you look at it. So it's the Kutek Puat Hospital. We featured it in the healthcare edition, which was issue 3, I think, of the Journal of Biophilic Design. So people can go onto the website and you can kind of look and download it and stuff. But it's a links in there. Oh, cheers, thank you. But it's and it's a beautiful, beautiful space, and it's a space where people in the community can come. I mean, just imagine creating a hospital where people actually want to go to. Do you know what I mean? You want to go and hang out there, you know. So the staff have got places to go, but the important thing is you've got a view of nature where you are in the bed. And, you know, we might create hospitals now, and I urge any designer that might be listening to this, if you've got any influence at all whatsoever on where the patients are going to be, where the staff are going to spend most of their time, if you can influence at all by the where they're looking, can they see a view of nature? Yes, if we can change the white melamine to even a wood grain melamine. I mean, if you have to have melamine, if you can't have real natural wood, you know, and can you put, like, you know, patterns of plants? Can you create like dappled shades instead of pulling like plain shades down? Can you bring shades down that have got like dots on them?
Fractal patterns.
Yeah, or just like dots in them so that the light comes through, you know, so they're perforated. So so you get this beautiful dappled light that comes through if you have to put the blinds down. Do you know what I mean? We can do so much more for people that can't move. We might create the garden outside, but if people can't see it, or can't access it, what's the point? You know, and yeah, you can wheel some people out there, and that's fantastic. But what about those people that might be stuck in those beds for 3, 4, 5 days, and you're trying to, you know, increase, you know, the NHS have got like a major problem on how, you know, staffing, real estate, everything like this. The beds are not getting empty faster. We know that beds empty faster, like you mentioned before with those studies, that people get, but you know, even 18 hours, even that one that was done in 1980s, you know, with the Roger Ulrich study, you know, that it's
so the attention restoration.
Yeah, so it's about exactly, that's essentially, yeah, exactly what it is. That's what biophilic design is, you know, on sort of many different levels, and I'll say with the synapses and your dopamine, and but it encourages, yeah, so I'm just saying, if anyone can influence how a hospital is designed, for goodness sake, please do one thing, get the people who are working there 24/7 have a view of nature, please.
So I heard the wildest stories. Did you know Stephen Bartlett?
Yeah,
he's a sort of he's got a podcast called The Diary of the CEO, a CEO, which is one of the most popular ones.
Yeah.
And he had someone on who's Frankie Boyle, who's a fantastic light artist.
Oh, she's great. Yeah, I done a podcast with her too.
Awesome.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So she sent me this podcast, being the light guy, and it was all about vitamin D synthesis and stuff like that. And there was this young boy he went in, he had really bad lungs, he had one removed, he was given about 2 days to live, and he'd spent months in the hospital, was getting psoriasis, just basically they were like, we're so sorry, with your last 2 days, what would you like to do? And he said, I want to go outside. And he went outside, and then he was really energetic and started feeling better, and his energy levels were higher. And then he overshot the 2-day mark of his life expectancy, and then it went on to 7 days, and then 9 days, and the doctors realized that he'd been inside for so long in hospitals that he wasn't getting any ultraviolet, infrared, and these smells, taste, sounds, and it was just nature quite literally saved his life, which is incredible. And you think about the World Health Organization now declares night shift work in hospitals is probably cancerous, which is crazy. You've got 65% higher chance of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and it is essentially, we're building sort of sickness into the very spaces that are meant to keep us healthy, which for me is wild. So with a hospital, if we take it as like an example, should we work through each sense and say what we could do to
it's a good plan. Yeah, let's do it.
I get that there's budgets, there's different requirements and stuff like that, but as a smell, and not to hog the mic, but I learned a really cool fact about.
Go on then.
Do you know the fact about lavender and how it is a numbing agent? It acts like an opioid, not an opioid, but it's a benzocaine or so. So it has the same amount of sort of painkiller and numbing properties as a diazepam or a Valium, which is crazy.
I was going to say that probably explains why in the old days, the old ladies always used to have like a little bag of lavender.
Really?
They used to have, and then they'd have like these little brooches, or they'd have a thing around their neck that would have lavender in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wisdom.
There must be something to do with it, like
Wisdom
to
again.
ease their arthritis, probably.
Yeah, I was like,
I feel so much better. I can
I
skip
feel like
down
I
the
need some
road.
lavender to be fair. It's like carrying a massive backpack on my back for 10 years.
Yeah.
But so in the NHS, because I think they still give it to people just before they go to childbirth as well. I think they do give you like a big whiff of lavender. But what else, using your sort of knowledge of the senses and biophilic design and stuff, are there any smells which you would maybe try and put in different areas and things like that?
Yeah, so it's lavender is obviously a brilliant one. I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, rose is obviously really good for feeling happy and calm, and obviously if you're into all that sort of heart chakra stuff and things. But yeah, lavender. If you're just going to do one thing, then that's a really good one. Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess also there's so sound as well. It's quite an interesting one.
Oh yeah, don't start me on sound. I could go on. I know exactly. I know you started. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got some time. My mum in the end, long fast forward, my dad passed away, but my mum in the end passed away, and they told me she had hours to live. Bless her, she ended up lasting like 4 days, and it was, I was with her the whole time because I thought she was going to die any minute, because that's what they told me, and so I couldn't move her back to the care home. So she spent her last days in a respiratory ward, and if anyone has been to a respiratory ward, they know how, I don't want to swear, but how very noisy these places are, and it was, I was trying to get respite because I was sleeping I was in a chair and next to her, but I was walking her through. I mean, they say sound is actually the last thing to go when you're dying. I mean, she had her eyes shut, and she was on morphine and everything, and it was obviously it was. I mean, it's awful, really, really awful, because the sound and the noise, and even actually the light. And I'm thinking, well, you can still see the light through your eyelids. And I know we're going to talk about light, and maybe I'm combining this a bit, but nobody on the ward knew that there was actually tunable lighting. Turned out there was tunable lighting. On the last day, they discovered, the woman came in and went, "Oh, I'll turn the light down for you." I'm like, seriously? I mean, I fought them to turn the light off at least at night, so at least she got a bit of circadian rhythm. But honestly, it was just like, this is a battle. And but I took her on a like a meditation, and I kept repeating it. My mum used to like the garden. She sat in the garden. I said, "You're sitting there. You've got the roses around you. Your daughter's with you. She's reading as usual. Trying to conjure a thing because and my friend had been like a death doula. So when you get born into the world, you have a midwife, say, but when you die, you don't have anyone. You don't have anyone that sits with you to kind of take you out of the world. And so they have these people called death doulas, and bless her. I mean, I was like, what do I do? I'm sitting here like, I don't know. So she said, just be with her. And anyway, I took her through this thing, and they say, so I mean, whether you believe this or not, or whether you think, but the sound is definitely the last thing to go. And I said, her hands were like this, and she wasn't moving. This was like on the penultimate day. And I said, I took her through the last thing, and I said, and the cat is sitting on your lap. And my mum's hand went like that. And I'm like, sorry, I don't want to cry. But, and I said, and then this woman's, or whoever it was, next door, sorry, sorry.
No, honestly it's...
The woman in the... Sorry,
no.
Pull myself together in a bit. Sorry, the woman in the bed next to her like CPAP thing. It's not a CPAP, but it was making a real noise. It was like to keep her alive, so she needed it. But
my granny had the same thing.
Yeah. So I mean, it was so noisy, and it was right next to my mum's basically pillows, if you know what I mean. We had those wonderful blue curtains that were pulled across. Yeah. But and I said, I had to say, that's the lawnmower, going in the garden next door. And because my mum's face was like sort of pulling, and I'm like, well, hang on a minute, she wasn't moving, but there was the sound was affecting her. And so I said, and then her face kind of like relaxed, and I'm like, so anyway, so sorry, sound, I've gone back.
No.
But this is back to biophilic design. Biophilic design also incorporates acoustics. It's about creating in nature. Nature doesn't have walls. I remember Andrea Harmon from Ecophon, she's like a big thing on like dementia and sound and things. And she said, nature doesn't have walls, so sound waves are allowed to just replicate, which is why, like where we are now, we've got these wood panels which absorb the sound. We're not in a white box, but in hospitals there are white boxes. So we need to have better acoustics in healthcare, particularly in places where they're noisy. A&E.
It's the most artificial environment you can be in for a place of healing. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and actually, because your healthcare, your story definitely resonated as well. Yeah. So your healthcare edition as well is amazing, with all the sort of layers of, but also in the economics of biophilia, looking at recovery rates and mortality rates in hospitals. I think dropped from 16 to 12% just if there's sort of texture and things like that. And it's wild. And I have this expression in this video that I'm making at the moment, which is, we are building sickness into the very spaces meant to heal us, right? And it's particularly, we'll come on to light at some stage, but this idea of we're bathed in an ocean of radiation as well, right? And just so you say that, in nature you have sound waves will disperse and hit a tree, and some may travel further, and all that kind of stuff, that complexity. Bill Browning's doing some amazing work as well. I don't know if this is with Casey or Ryan, but we had a conversation about it, and he was saying that in hotels and hospitals, I think he was saying it's really important because the sounds are so artificial. You've got the beep, and
I know,
and all that kind of stuff. It's so unnatural. That they were looking at trying to incorporate sound into the environment to try and restore balance. What was interesting is there's a really, really close connection between sound and sight. So they did this study where they played the sound of a motorway and gave someone, I'm going to butcher the explanation, but more or less, right? More or less. It was the sound of a motorway, and they showed the participants either a view of a sort of cityscape, and immediately their brain went, rough sound of a motorway, it must be a motorway because I'm seeing concrete and high rises and stuff like that. When they switched that visual to a field, they were like, oh, that's a river.
Yeah.
So the frequency of a motorway and a river are exactly the same. It's just constant movement and stuff. So you have to have associations. And he was doing some studies about, right, well, we'll start doing river sounds, rushing water and stuff like that in the built environment.
Yeah.
But you need a visual cue
Yeah.
to believe that that's a river and not a motorway.
Yeah.
And he said that the most soothing sound in the built environment for every single one they did, they've done bird songs and stuff, which I know we've spoken about.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest ones is just white noise. So having white noise which is good for ADHD and sleeping, that kind of stuff. So I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, just having white noise gently in the background. I wonder how.
Well, it's
soothing
Mood
that
Sonic.
would be
So
to-
Mood Sonic is doing some really interesting stuff.
they're brilliant. Are they-
Yeah, they're actually going to be soundscaping the conference, actually. So,
Amazing.
like they did at the Barbican, where people are sitting, and they do this in the workplace, obviously, where they mask sound. So they specialise in that.
Through its 4D kind of spatial audio.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I know, exactly. Yeah.
You can actually fire a sound to a specific location as well.
Yeah.
With some of the stuff they're doing. So you can,
Yeah.
you can
It's
say, I want the
fascinating.
sound of water 20 metres away,
Yeah,
just in that spot.
just in that bit there. Yeah, exactly. I know. And like you say, it just brings and it masks sound. It's one of the best things that we can do, really.
But then touch as well. I mean, you were talking about, the first interaction with Maggie's cancer wards, which is, and Colin Airlard, who's a brilliant researcher, and he's got an incredible book. Is it? It's not Happy Places or In Places or something, but I'll put the link in because it's amazing. But he describes the outside of buildings as the skin of a building, which I really love as an explanation because it brings it to life. And he says, if you have a wooden door handle as opposed to a steel one, you're immediately welcomed and held, and that the brand can benefit from it if it's a company, or
exactly,
even the patient can if it's a hospital.
Well, that the Maggie's thing. When I spoke to the CEO, Dame Laura Lee, she said that actually when you put your hand on a metal, if you're going through cancer and you put your hand on a metal doorknob, you have like this sort of it kind of does, that's obviously not a very technical term, but it has it makes you go ooh, and it has a reaction to you. Your skin is obviously, because you're or everything, your nerve endings basically are affected.
In the body kind of thing, so
are affected. But if you touch wood, it's a completely different. You don't get that reaction. So they're very conscious about the materials they use.
But that object is quite shocking, isn't it?
It is, exactly. Above everything else. Yeah, exactly. But it's something to do with the metal.
Out of your skin.
Yeah,
as opposed to
but then again, just to go back to that pathway thing at the beginning, and back to textures, like you're saying, and touch, they have like seats where you can sit and you can process your diagnosis. You can process the thing on the way in and on the way out. But they have wooden seats, or they have it's made of stone or granite or whatever. So you've got a bit of texture. You've got the leaves next to you. You've got the sound as well. Back to the sound. So all these sort of multi-sensory. I mean, that's what biophilic design is. It's a multi-sensory design practice, but it's about I suppose it's like we've got here with a sound system, or if you've got your Bose, but if you're lucky enough to have a Bose system at home, or even any old system where you think, or in your car you think, oh my goodness, I want to push the subwoofer up because you just want a bit more sound. That's ultimately what biophilic design
I've heard
is.
About you. Complaints from the neighbourhood watch about you and your Subaru.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My little
Just
blue.
playing
I know, my blue
bird
lights.
sounds, to be honest. Whale sounds.
My blue lights at the bottom. Actually, we do have an audio visual experience at the conference this year, which is going to be, because we're not at the Barbican, we're at Westminster Central Hall.
November 12th.
17th. Yeah, Monday 17th.
Good.
Yeah, it's right near Parliament, and right. Oh, excellent. But as you come in, there's an audio visual experience. So you've got so it's 4 different ones, and then we end on music, which is, oh my god, it's the sound.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's the soundtrack to Biophilic Design. Just the whole thing is just like amazing. It's awesome. It's just like, it's so exciting.
I'll bring
so
my
exciting.
glow sticks.
Yeah, please do.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I know.
My rave whistle.
Yeah. But at the beginning, we actually have the heartbeat of the earth.
Wow, which is 967 hertz or something.
Yeah. Well, we have, it's actually a heartbeat, and we've resonated it. So I've been working with George Harvey, who's he's an amazing musician and sound engineer. He's part of the Very Lazy Sundays. Just give a lug to that plug. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, yeah. Bless them. But they're amazing. They're a lovely band. And but he has created these sound scapes with music, and I even played a bit of a handpan, which he then sampled, and that was just so cool. Yeah, no, it's just going to be really awesome. So you're going to feel the earth, and you're going to see how nature is for us.
Well, I think there's a couple of interesting segues we can make into light here. So I think it's maybe the right time.
I know, go for it.
So we had an amazing guy called Joel Christing on this sofa for last season. He does this amazing thing called photo entrainment, which is really cool. So you shut your eyes, light flashes at a certain frequency, and you can pick the frequency. So either you pick the frequency that your brain emits when it's in alpha brainwave sort of state, which is deep meditation. So you can get it to strobe at your eyelids at an alpha brainwave frequency, and that will reverse entrain your entire body into deep meditation, which is crazy. So you can use light to flash in a certain sequence, and you'll start going into deep visualization and meditative, almost hallucinations and stuff. One of them was also the earth frequency. So for grounding, so 678 hertz, or someone would be able to say. But it's amazing. So you have exactly that frequency pulsed into your eye, and it is a form of grounding, because it's quite literally going from all the way through your body visually to that. But one really interesting thing, if we bring it back to hospitals and the power of light to entrain you into rhythms, we spoke about circadian rhythms, and your poor old mum in a situation where there's no removal of the blue.
No.
But one thing I think was really... So I did a lecture to some master's students in Oslo, and I kind of went in there being like, these guys know quite a lot. I'm slightly shitting myself. Hopefully I don't say anything too out of their beliefs, because I know that a hand will go up and they'll say, oh, actually... but I got away with it, and they ended up... So I was talking about chronotypes and how each of us has a different wake-sleep cycle, how understanding your chronotype, if you're good in the morning compared to nighttime, giving medicine to people at different times of the day, you can completely remove the side effects of oxaliplatin, which is a bowel cancer treatment, if you give it to someone when their body is strong. If someone is a night owl and you give it to them in the evening, then their body is ready for that poison and it battles it, and there's no side effects. Give it to them in the morning when they're sluggish and slow and waiting for their time to shine in the evening, then you get burning skin, headaches, nausea, all that kind of stuff. So it's amazing about the adaptability,
understanding this
input.
stuff.
Exactly. But one really interesting thing was I set them the challenge of designing a hotel with this basically training on my book. And they were like, right, and it was really cool. They started doing the Chrono Hotel, which was one of the coolest ones. And it was, you had the early birds sort of on the east, and then the night owls and the insomniacs, dolphins. You know who you are on the west side of the world. Is it? It's because you're too interested in too much stuff. I think probably. But so they're on the west side. So it was really interesting seeing how this sort of natural history and biology lessons were then influencing the designs of people in making habitats of human beings. But one of the really interesting things was highlighting the importance of light in terms of highlighting texture. So we spoke earlier about the fact that you get these grid lights. Someone will look at a ceiling plan and they go, we need one light there, we'll do one every 2 meters until we run out of room. And you end up with these horrible flat hospital style spaces, right? And I get it, it's it's easy, it's job done, people have other objectives, they've got to go do the plumbing and the flooring and everything else. But it was amazing. So there's this fact about how the visual cortex is shaped like a funnel, and when you see a simple object being viewed by an individual, the brain it's not that complicated. So the visual cortex only lights up a few neurons. If you bring a light right up against the wall, it never happens unless you have a lighting designer involved, because they're literally the cultivators of atmosphere. They bring a light right up against the wall and they'll graze all that texture of the slate, or even a boring white painted wall. At least you've got the little imperfections, wabby sabby, that's sort of popping out. Popping out, and you can see in the visual cortex more of those neurons will fire, so you're objectively sparking more pleasure in your brain. So one of these amazing students decided, they were like, right, well, I did a primary school, a high school, and an elderly care home, because I wanted different segments.
Amazing.
And the elderly care home, what was really interesting is they were like, right, well, what we could potentially do is use light as a way of massaging the brain's visual touch connection sort of circuitry. And they were like, right, well, the handrails will have a really lovely graze, and it was really awesome to start seeing people understand the power of light to create texture, shape, and everything like that. So it's worked out quite nicely for me, this, because we're going to end with the biggest of all the senses, light. so, in my opinion. So, I mean, what is amazing is the first idea of how we used to see it's called the extramission theory, which is we used to believe that we had invisible tentacles that would reach out of our eyes and touch the world around us. We've always known how visceral touch is in terms of its ability to connect with sight, but there's a whole host of other ones. And I mean, how, in your opinion, how important is light in the context of design, and how could we,
well, it's really is, and I'd be really interested to hear, actually, to find out a little bit more and actually delve into it.
Out.
I know, but I actually really want to know a bit more. So you're gonna have to write for the journal about the stuff that people were coming up with the care homes, because that's really interesting, because you've got a combination of the tactileness of like those bars where people are looking at, so they can feel their way along. So that's to help them wayfinding, but also you've got the beautiful light on it. It's so important. I think the circadian rhythm of lighting is really important. All these things. And I love listening to you talking about light, because I always learn something else. I remember the conference and you saying, we grew up the sea and
names or places. I've got such a pointless encyclopedic brain on just facts about the body and light.
I always learn something new when I speak to him. And I was like, it's so cool. I didn't know that. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Good.
Yeah. But it's light is really important to us, and like just putting those white lights in us that don't change, giving people also choice to be able to tune the light as well, creating different light. You've got a more of a technical way of describing it, but basically different colours of light if you want. So where if you are trying to have like a really, you need to have like a real focus sort of space, then having light that helps you focus. And then when you need to just like sit and read or just process something, you need a different like yellowy light or whatever it is. You need a different colour. You need to be able to and during the day, isn't it? So you need to have that circadian rhythm. It's so important, not just having that plain simple one, like you just say, just that one colour light all day. Because you go home, you kick the dog. You kind of, do you know what I mean? You're angry,
and
just
then me.
Yeah,
and then see someone else.
And also, I mean, you go out of exactly. If you go out and then you've got the light bulbs that are outside and the street lamps and that, they're not if they've not been tuned.
So I'm on the 23rd floor of a building in North London.
Yeah,
and I have to wear an eye mask, because the floodlight, the street lamps are so bright. They're hitting the 23rd floor, going through a blind. Yeah. And I still feel like it's 8 p.m. It's crazy.
I know, but I mean, also there's this whole thing about light pollution and animals, and the wrong light as well can give cancer. I did a podcast with the guy's name I've forgotten, but if the people go on it,
is it?
No, it's not. He's a keeper of dark skies, actually. His name will come back to me. But he's on the South Downs, and he was talking. It's full of facts. I mean, you can geek out on that. It's just like there's so much. But he's looking at it from a wildlife perspective.
The bluing effect. Did you talk about the
bluing effect? But it was also like spoke about the wavelengths, but how in cities we need to be. I mean, this is why biophilic design is so important, not just on the inside but on the outside. It's we've got climate crisis and everything else. We need to have greening streets, but we also need to be conscious of our light. We need to have lights that point down. I hate it when people kind of people move in and they change all the lights in somebody's house, and outside they put these up and down lights. They should just not be allowed to be sold.
This is the thing that
the manufacturers are half to blame. Your company's all right. You know what you're doing because you're informed. You're coming at it from a science perspective. But there are many companies which might be in different countries which are just manufacturing. They're churning out the same things because the sales guys are peddling the same things because they're not trained. They don't have that education, because it's just not in front of them.
I do think it's also vote with your wallet, vote with your spec choice. So actually designers and end clients are the ones who, and that all comes down to education. And this is the part which I find really interesting is, the reason why we're sat on the sofa today, the reason why I ended up losing sort of my evenings and weekends over 3 years write your bloody book. I still didn't really know when I wrote it. It's just sort of it's a true, like it is for you, it's a complete vocation to the point where I'll be doing this for the next 30 years with my brother. My twin brother's just joined the company as well. So
really?
Yeah.
It's really twin brother? I got
a twin brother,
There's two of you. Oh my god.
No, we don't look
Watch
the same.
out, world.
I know, exactly. The baseline in the Subaru going around Hertfordshire. But no, but it is just crazy. I mean, it's, as I went around trying to explain to people why our products were good, and this isn't a plug at all, but our whole design process is around the fact that when you think about what light is, the Big Bang released all radiation, radio waves, microwaves, infrared, and then red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, what we see. And then you get to ultraviolet. And so in between infrared, which warms our skin, and ultraviolet, which rips paint off walls, you've got this radiation that we've completely overlooked. And it's you know, our design philosophy is to harness that radiation in a way that allows you to customize it in the environment in a way that gives you scope to make it natural. And that's the idea. But the crazy thing for me is, and I can't wait to release this video because it's taken me, again, this is more of my evenings and weekends and midnights and stuff like that, but it's the idea that, you know, this expression, we're bathed in an ocean of radiation. So I always like to describe it as, in a hospital, you've got, just like in many offices, many houses where lighting designers or lighting layout hasn't been considered, you end up with these runways of lights, you know, 2 lights every 2 meters, and you end up with light being blasted in all directions. There's no contrast. And I did a post literally this morning about contrast on my LinkedIn, and it's all about how so we actually need darkness in an environment, because so contrast, you know, I always use the example of a stage, you know, a single spotlight on an actor or actress, the hairs in the back of your neck stand up, and it's, you know, there's this amazing interplay between light and storytelling, and it's the, you know, you can do 3 years in a project, and then you put a load of iPhone torches in the ceiling in a runway, and it looks shit. You know, you got just blue light, no orange, all this kind of stuff. But it's crazy. So just having contrast and zoning, the stuff we spoke about with texture washing out and massaging your brain's pleasure center, all that kind of stuff. Like when you start thinking about contrast, I read into it, and so when we see shadow, our body actually goes into a state of fear, because we go, there could be a saber-toothed tiger there or a panther.
Exactly.
And it stops you and makes you present. So instead, we're creating these spaces that are bathed in an ocean of radiation. There's no contrast, there's no lifting of the textures, but also, you know, we talk about street lamps, you know, suddenly went from halogen and tungsten, which are lovely orange wavelengths, and red wavelengths, and red is the first colour we see as human beings. You know, we see black and white for 6 weeks, and the first colour we see is red, because we need to communicate through blood flow in people's faces to communicate emotions and stuff. And then also we now know that infrared charges every single mitochondria in your body. So we're now indoors for 90% of our time. By the age of 40, we've spent 37 years indoors.
Oh, when you add that up,
scary. It's disgusting.
It is.
Sorry, I'm in a bit of a rant here.
I know, ranting is good.
But the thing for me is, you know, we start thinking about light. Light is radiation. We've moved from orange, infrared, halogen, tungsten, which is warming, soothing, tells you you're safe. And we've very quickly gone to LED, which is a bright blue wavelength with a little layer over the top that most of the time gets value engineered out. And it means we lose red, orange, all the warming ability to communicate with each other. But going back to the bluing effect, all of our street lamps have suddenly very quickly moved to a bright blue wavelength. So red is blue is a far higher frequency than red, which is slow and next to infrared, towards the red radio wave end of the electromagnetic spectrum. When you get to LEDs, not only is it exactly the same frequency that triggers your brain into thinking it's daytime, which creates cortisol, which increases your blood pressure and heart rate, which is one of the biggest reasons behind it being cancerous in the NHS. You're also using a far more potent frequency, which means it can travel further. So when we move from orange street lamps to blue, orange wavelengths were coming out of these street lamps, hitting the pollution in a city like London, and they go ding, 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 ding. That was my sound effect for it dying out. Blue light is so potent, it goes ding, 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 you know, and it's like a pinball machine, and it's called the bluing effect. So when you come into a city now, and you see the blue dome over a city, that is literally because the street lamps are bouncing off pollution and creating this giant blue dome that attracts all the insects, which attracts all the bats,
and then they die, and
all the owls wipe out all the bats. That's why bats are endangered.
Well, they die. The thing is though, the frequency, that blue frequency, it kills the insects. So then that's what happens. Ultimately, that's what's happening.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they kills the insects, and then therefore then the bats don't have the food, and then the owls don't have the food. So it actually ends up, you know, actually reversing that whole thing. So the ecosystems die, and it's all to do with that. Those again, like the frequencies. But just to go back on. So if we have got these lights and we have got that thing, and again, you know, I think one of your questions later on, which I know we've gone completely off piece, but I absolutely love. But you know, one of the questions was, you know, what's one of the things that people don't, you know, if people don't use much in biophilic design or don't talk about much, and it's actually this non-rhythmic movement.
Non-rhythmic visual stimuli.
Yeah, it's a non-rhythmic. I call it non-rhythmic movement. That's kind of basically
easier.
what it is. That's what it is. Whether that's sort of, actually a real plant moving, or you have like swaying of grasses in the breeze, and just to make the point, there's nothing that's still in nature. If it is still, like you just said, you think there's there's going to be a tsunami, because that's when everything goes super
calm
still
before the storm.
Yeah,
right?
calm before the storm, exactly. Yeah. So actually what you should be doing, and again it's the combination of like biophilic design patterns, if you've got a plant, you can then create this sort of dapple shade that goes over your desk. So if you are in an environment where you can't change the light bulbs for whatever reason, obviously we want everybody to come along to your company, or companies like yourselves, where they can choose a different colour light bulb, a different frequency. Once you can't unknow it, like you've just said, you need to have these different types of light bulbs in, or tunable lighting, or have these, not value engineer the things that go over the top of these blasted LEDs. But if you, by putting plants above, in between you and the light source, when the plant moves, if somebody walks past and the leaves move slightly, and plants move during the day anyway. They just move. I've actually got a plant in my bedroom, and when
it's now in your bathroom.
Well, well, no, I've got quite a few plants actually all over the place. Yeah, I know. But what's really interesting, it's one of those, I've forgotten what it's called. It's not Drakentia. But anyway, I twisted it round because I thought, the leaves are kind of like pulling, and I just thought I'd just move it a little bit. Anyway, it almost freaked me out the first night, because the leaves went crick.
No,
they were moving.
Well, David Attenborough's got amazing. Was it The Life of Plants or something?
Yeah,
you see them
moving.
going up in a jungle.
But they do. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's about movement. It's about creating life, living systems, living patterns. Obviously, plants, natural things are one of the best things you can do. And by combining all the different patterns that you've got, light, sound, touch, smell, and also proprioception, which Oliver Heath was talking about in the podcast that I was doing, and it's how how we move through a space, and you can do that with wayfinding through textures and things, but also with lighting. Like you just said, light and dark. We need darkness. We need to be able to create those spaces where the pools of light are here, which is great for focus and everything else, but we, to be able to move into the darkness so we can hide. Another thing of biophilic design is prospect and refuge, but to have those spaces of refuge where we can go to just go, just going to have a little quiet time, is so important.
Well, that's it. I mean, we did a really cool podcast with a guy called Tapio, who does a software called Poet software.
Yeah.
And essentially it's clever tech that allows a building to all the tech in a building to be alive and to interact and respond to the environment. So
that's interesting.
It'll work out the size and speed that someone's walking down a corridor, and they'll go, that's an elderly person, they're most likely to need help with the reception because they won't order a cab themselves. So a little light will just flicker at the end to guide them down. Or literally changing. So the lift lights were basically dimmed right down so that people weren't enticed towards the lift.
Yeah.
And there was a little flickering, fun, irregular pulse of a light just by the stairs. And the amount that the stairs were used went up by like 25%.
Yeah.
So it changed health behaviour through, so, but this zoning, this contrast, this, as you say, prospect and refuge. I mean, for me, this is why, obviously I'm going to be a bit biased, but the information that I keep reading and the stats that I keep finding are that light is... So we scan 11 million bits of information every second. So we're walking radar dishes.
Yeah.
50 bits of that per second actually comes into our awareness. Everything else is our subconscious.
Yeah.
So when you think about the fact that from the moment that we were bringing it back to the beginning of the podcast, cyanobacteria, little blue-green algae, which we all were at some point, then we went to fish, then we went to land, then we went to apes, then we went to where we are now. That whole time we've downloaded expectations of 11 million bits of expectations, and now we're in environments which are flat boxes, regular. And one of the things that was fun as well, so I went on sort of like a walk the other day. I was really thinking about sort of what it is about outside that really engages me. One of the biggest things was wind.
Okay.
Because walls sort of close off that. You can open a window and stuff like that, so it becomes quite stagnant. But then I was sort of thinking about it in the context of lighting. So wind is the change, non-visual sensory stimuli or rhythmic movement, as you can say. So that rhythmic movement, irregular but familiar, of wind over the skin. Yeah. It's kind of, when you come to lighting and you think about its radiation, and you're blasting everyone with one. It's like it's like sitting under an AC unit, all day. And after a while, you're like, "Fuck this! This is so draining." And So thinking about, that AC unit, they make these AC units in Japan that will change the intensity and they can replicate a beach and stuff like that. And that then makes you go, this is actually quite, a living, breathing space. And that, again, for me, is lighting and radiation. You can move and duck and dive and be playful. And there's an amazing woman called Dr. Perul, who I spoke with, who does a lot of work with sort of designing for children.
Children, at school, yeah.
And she has this really great expression, which has really stuck with me, which is, as a designer, the easiest way to ensure that you're putting biophilic principles in and things that are going to, be tactile and natural and enrich the environment. Design for children, and your job is half done. Because if you're thinking about children going to a play centre, you want them to have textures, visual stimulation, stuff like that. It's almost like we just slowly strip back.
Well, we grow up, don't we? And then we become like,
really hard not to do that.
Yeah. I know. Tell me about it. Yeah, exactly. But it's true. It's like, and again, back to hospitals. If you go to hospitals, there's money invested, and there's an understanding of, we'll create these spaces for kids that are going to be all playful. They're going to have colour, and the point I'm saying is, though, that we consciously design spaces in hospitals for children to help them have a better experience when they're in hospital. But when we're adults, it's like, well, you're grown up. It doesn't matter. You just got to
deal with it.
Yeah, just stiff upper lip, get on with it. But actually,
well, how
it's
do
the
you
same.
get?
But we're the same. We're still the same. We're still kid-like. We haven't. We might have a bit more finesse, maybe, but ultimately, we're still the same biological entity that we were there, and we still should.
Well, I think the best example is actually, when you go to the water cooler on a Monday and you're like, all right, how you doing? Is your weekend? Yeah, great. Cut to what actually happened, and you're doing sort of lawnmower drag races with your mate 6 beers down. You're like, you're not grown up. You don't spend your weekends being adult. It's funny. It's just,
you have play, and that's it. We are like that. We're social
need an
creatures.
antidote to boredom.
We do.
I know. And nature is the biggest one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
How do you get sort of hard-nosed developers and understandably different stakeholders, different objectives? Bottom line is,
it has to be economics. It has to be economics. That you have to pull in the economics of the benefits of biophilic design. You have to bring in the fact that it's going to, reduce presenteeism, absenteeism. It's going to entice your staff back to the office. It's going to increase your real estate value. Like we just said, you're going to sell more. Your patients are going to get out of the beds faster, which means just everything is just going to save money. You don't have to keep, and your staff are going to want to come back to the office, and you save money on recruitment costs. There's just it's literally
but
that.
Anything good, anything.
So
many wins.
Yeah, I know exactly, but it's persuading people, but also you need to get in there early. And all the conversations that I'm having with designers and architects, planners, project managers, whether they're in construction or whether they're trying to retrofit anything, is if you can get in early as a biophilic design with the biophilic design head, whether you're the consultant or anything else. You can influence how it is, so it's not value engineered out. So it's if it's written into stage 1 of the of your REBA stages, so that they can't take it out. And I'm going to speak later today at the conference. But if you're a plant company, don't just put your sales guys forward without training them. Don't just sell a pot. Don't just kind of rent a pot. You're actually going to be renting a scheme and help your clients understand how the fractal patterns of the plants are going to help the staff or the users in that space. Whether that's hotels, schools, hospitals, whatever the space is. And then so it's a more of a holistic understanding of the specification. So it's not just, it's just some plants, or it's just a colourway, or we're just going to paint it green.
It's the why, isn't it? There's that big thing about the why, then the what, then the how.
No,
Most people go, what are you selling? It's a plant. Do you want one?
Yeah.
It's like, why? It's like, this is something we evolved to see. The fractal patterns will soothe you because we expect to be in the surrounding.
Yeah.
How does it work? Evolution. What is it? Oh, by the way, it's a plant.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you're buying the purpose and the end result.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it has to be joined up. It has to be joined up when you need all the stakeholders in the room, not just, the person you're speaking to, but you need to make sure that the person with the purse strings, who's usually the person that's sitting in a back room with a spreadsheet that does not get involved in this specification, and they look at it and go, what do we need the plants for? What do we need that different color paint for? Why do we need the paint that's got, the low VOCs? Why do we need the light bulbs that are like you were just saying, why don't we just stick the LED ones in because of the environment and all this kind of thing? Well, actually, because. So you need to make sure somehow engage those people, get their buy-in. It's hard work. It's hard work, but if
it pays off, and like we say,
does.
if Google and Amazon and everyone are
doing it, it's examples, case studies. Yeah, exactly. It's pulling it all in together. Yeah.
So I think, we're sort of getting towards the end of our discussion. I think what's always quite nice is is there anything you kind of want to say? So anyone listening now about biophilic design, about what they can do to incorporate more of it, anything that,
well, I don't know.
Sort of closing thoughts?
Well, I suppose if you can do one thing, and I bang on about this all the time, and I know I'm guilty of saying it about a million times on the podcast, but really simply, the basic, if you strip back the whole of the biophilic design principles, everything else, and you can distill it into like basically one thing, the biophilia hypothesis. Every decision you make, every specification you make, every manufacturing decision you make, anything that you do, your choices of food, everything, is it going to be to the detriment of life and living systems and living patterns? Is it going to somewhere down the line destroy life? Is it going to pollute water? Is it going to harm the fish? Is it going to, the VOCs and the paint that you're going to specify, is that going to harm the people? The products that you're going to put, is it all full of plastics? Is it going to have forever plastics in it? Is it going to release, what's the end of life? If you just think about, is it going to be to the detriment of living systems? Then don't do it. Simple. But if it's going to enhance life, if it's going to align with the biophilia hypothesis, then do it. If it's going to enhance the mental and physical health of people, is it going to enhance or regenerate life on Earth? We need to do it. You just got to do it. Obviously Jane Goodall has just recently passed away when we're recording this podcast, and she was such a phenomenal woman. And I think I think this it's very easy to get sort of drawn into the whole, what's the point? We're too far gone in the climate crisis, for instance. But if we don't have hope, then we take no action. And that's what she was saying. And going back to the ancient Greeks, so to kind of actually pull the full circle. But Pandora's box, the thing that was left in Pandora's box was hope, which in ancient Greek is elpis. So, which I always think is when I learned it, it was like help, help.
Yeah.
With a silent H. But if hope was left out of everything that was left, that they all took out, sort of love, all this kind of thing, hope was remaining in Pandora's box. And I think we need to, and actually through biophilic design gives us hope in the built environment. It gives us hope in healthcare. It gives us hope in education, in schools. It gives us hope in cities. It helps equity. It provides lungs and life force for everything on Earth. Ourselves and every single living creature on this planet. We need it.
It's a really beautiful way to wrap up. Vanessa, thank you so much. It's been awesome
Thank
talking.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Mega.